Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, the wind roaring, rain piercing your skin, chaos erupting all around you. Most people would panic, searching for shelter, desperate for an escape. But what if, instead of running, you stood your ground, calm, composed, completely unshaken? What if no amount of turbulence could disturb your inner peace? Life is unpredictable. One moment, everything seems to be in perfect order, and the next, it spirals into uncertainty. Relationships shift, success fades, failures emerge, and criticism arrives without warning. Most people allow these external forces to dictate their emotions, pulled from one extreme to another, riding the relentless waves of life's highs and lows. But there is another way. Buddha once said, "As a rock that is unshaken by the storm, so too, the wise are unshaken by praise and blame." These words hold a profound truth, one that has the power to change the way you experience life. They reveal the secret of an unshakable mindset, a mind so deeply rooted in wisdom and clarity that it remains at peace no matter what happens. Think about the people who inspire you, those who radiate confidence and inner stability. Are they the ones who react impulsively, losing control the moment life becomes difficult? Are they the ones who crumble when faced with hardship? Or are they the ones who stand firm, who remain centered, who carry an undeniable presence of calm even when the world around them is unraveling? The greatest warriors, the wisest sages, and the most enlightened beings throughout history have all shared one thing in common: an unbreakable mind. True strength does not come from physical power, wealth, or external achievements. It comes from mastering the mind. The ability to remain emotionally stable in the midst of chaos, to rise again after every fall, to protect one's inner peace regardless of external circumstances. This is what sets apart those who are truly strong from those who are merely pretending to be. But here's the truth that many people overlook: mental strength is not something you are born with. It is not a trait given to a select few. It is a skill, one that must be cultivated, refined, and trained over time. No one wakes up one day with an unshakable mindset. It is built through discipline, through awareness, through the conscious effort to detach from negativity and ground oneself in wisdom. If you have ever felt overwhelmed by life, if you have ever doubted yourself, if you have ever allowed the opinions of others to dictate your emotions, know that you are not alone. But also know that this does not have to be your reality. You have the power to shift, to rewire the way you respond to life, to develop a mind that remains strong no matter what comes your way. And that is exactly what we are going to explore. The principles of emotional stability, the art of resilience, the necessity of self-compassion, each of these is a crucial piece in a journey to inner strength. By the time we reach the end, you will see the world differently. You will see yourself differently. You will understand what it truly means to be strong, not in the way the world defines it, but in the way that actually matters. So take a deep breath. Let go of everything that is weighing on your mind. This is your path to breaking free. This is your journey to becoming unshakable. Let's begin. Number 1. Understanding the nature of life, the 8 worldly conditions. Life is a constant dance between joy and sorrow, gain and loss, moments of glory and times of obscurity. No matter who you are, no matter how much wealth, knowledge, or power you possess, these fluctuations are inevitable. Buddha categorized them into what is known as the 8 worldly conditions: ahalokadhamma, gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. These 8 conditions define the ebb and flow of human existence, shaping our experiences and emotions. The problem, however, is not their presence in our lives but rather our attachment to them. Most people live as though happiness is something external, something to be acquired, achieved, or given by others. They become intoxicated by success and devastated by failure. A single word of praise can lift their spirits, while a single criticism can shatter them. This is the nature of an untrained mind, one that is entirely at the mercy of life's ever-changing conditions. Imagine a small boat on the ocean, tossed by the waves. When the sea is calm, the boat floats peacefully, but when a storm arrives, it is thrown into chaos. Such is the mind that remains attached to external circumstances. It is constantly shifting, never stable, always at risk of being overturned by the tides of life. Buddha taught that wisdom lies in recognizing the impermanence of these worldly conditions. Gain and loss are part of the same cycle. Today, you may acquire wealth, but tomorrow, you may lose it. Fame is fleeting. One day, you are celebrated, and the next, you are forgotten. Praise and blame are merely echoes of people's opinions, which change as quickly as the wind. Pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. Every moment of joy carries within it the seed of suffering, for what is pleasurable today may become painful tomorrow. Understanding this truth is the first step toward inner freedom. A person with a strong mind does not seek validation from external sources. Their sense of peace does not depend on praise, nor is it shattered by criticism. When they experience success, they do not become arrogant. When they face failure, they do not fall into despair. Instead, they cultivate a state of equanimity, a deep, unshakable calm that remains steady through all of life's ups and downs. This does not mean they suppress their emotions or ignore reality. It means they see things as they truly are, temporary, ever-changing, and ultimately beyond their control. Take the example of Ajahn Chah, a revered Thai Buddhist monk. When he first began teaching, he was met with criticism from villagers who disapproved of his methods. They accused him of breaking tradition, of not conforming to their expectations. But instead of reacting with anger or trying to defend himself, he simply smiled and continued his practice. He understood that praise and blame are transient, that the opinions of others are like clouds passing through the sky. Years later, the same villagers who had once condemned him became his devoted followers, realizing the depth of his wisdom. Ajahn Chah's response was a testament to true mental strength. He neither grasped for approval nor resisted criticism. He remained grounded in his own understanding, unaffected by the changing tides of public opinion. This story illustrates an important lesson: criticism and praise are fleeting. If you allow them to dictate your emotions, you will forever be at their mercy. But if you learn to step back, to observe them without attachment, you will find a deep and lasting peace. The same applies to all the 8 worldly conditions. Whether you gain something or lose something, whether you are admired or ridiculed, whether you experience pleasure or pain, if you recognize that all of these experiences are impermanent, you will not be disturbed by them. But how do we cultivate this mindset? How do we train ourselves to remain unmoved by life's ups and downs? The answer lies in mindfulness and self-awareness. Whenever you find yourself reacting strongly to praise or criticism, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, is this truly who I am? Does this praise make me more worthy? Does this criticism make me less valuable? If you look deeply, you will see that these external judgments have no real substance. They are merely projections of other people's thoughts, shaped by their own conditioning and biases. Consider the story of a Zen master who was falsely accused of fathering a child. When confronted, he did not argue, defend himself, or seek to clear his name. He simply responded, "Is that so?" He accepted the accusation without resistance. Years later, when the truth was revealed and people apologized to him, he again replied, "Is that so?" His peace was never disturbed, for he understood that truth does not need validation, and falsehood does not need defense. His state of mind was one of complete detachment from praise and blame, fame and disgrace. This is the kind of inner stability we should aspire to cultivate. When we are not swayed by gain and loss, when we do not cling to fleeting pleasures or resist inevitable pains, we develop a profound sense of inner strength. This strength does not mean we become indifferent or unfeeling. Rather, it means we become deeply present, fully aware, yet free from attachment. We see the transient nature of all things, and in doing so, we find a peace that cannot be disturbed. Ultimately, the 8 worldly conditions are not something to be avoided, nor are they something to be feared. They are simply part of the natural flow of life. But if we become too attached to one side, if we cling to gain, fame, praise, or pleasure, we set ourselves up for suffering when the inevitable opposite arrives. The wise person understands this and chooses instead to cultivate equanimity. They stand firm like a mountain, unshaken by the winds of change, grounded in the unchanging truth of impermanence. In your own life, observe how these conditions affect you. Do you find yourself elated when praised, only to become anxious when criticized? Do you feel secure when you have money, but fearful when you lose it? Do you chase pleasure while avoiding pain at all costs? If so, recognize that these fluctuations are inevitable, but your suffering is optional. With practice, you can learn to detach from the highs and lows, to develop a mind that remains steady and at peace. The first step is awareness. The next step is practice. And with time, you will find yourself becoming less affected by external circumstances. You will experience a deeper sense of calm, a profound inner freedom. And that is the essence of true strength, the ability to remain unshaken, no matter what life brings your way. Number 2, the art of emotional stability, mastering your reactions. Emotional stability is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that negativity does not affect you. It is about developing the ability to respond rather than react, to maintain inner balance regardless of external chaos. Many people believe that a strong person never experiences sadness, disappointment, or anger. But in truth, emotional stability is not about eliminating these emotions, it is about learning how to master them. The real measure of strength lies not in avoiding emotional pain but in how skillfully one navigates through it. Imagine walking through a marketplace when a stranger suddenly shouts at you for no reason. You have 2 choices: react impulsively, yelling back, and escalating the conflict, or pause, recognize that their anger belongs to them, and walk away, unshaken. This moment of decision is where true power lies. A weak mindset allows emotions to dictate behavior. A strong mindset recognizes the impermanence of emotions and chooses a response that aligns with inner peace. In Buddhism, emotions are often compared to passing clouds. Just as clouds drift across the sky without affecting the vast space of the sky itself, emotions arise and fade within the mind. They are temporary and ever-changing. However, most people grasp onto their emotions as if they are permanent truths. If someone insults them, they take it personally, allowing anger or hurt to consume them. If someone praises them, they become attached to the feeling of validation, fearing its loss. This attachment creates suffering. The key to emotional stability is learning to observe emotions without being controlled by them. When someone criticizes you, instead of reacting defensively, pause and ask yourself, is this really about me, or is it a reflection of the other person's mind? Most of the time, criticism and praise say more about the person giving them than about the one receiving them. Consider the famous Zen story of a master who was falsely accused of fathering a child. When confronted by angry villagers demanding an explanation, he simply responded, "Is that so?" He did not argue or attempt to defend himself. He remained calm, unshaken by the false accusation. Years later, when the truth was revealed and the real father was found, people came to apologize. Again, the master simply said, "Is that so?" His peace was never disturbed because he understood that the opinions of others do not define reality. This story illustrates a profound truth. No one's words have power over you unless you give them that power. To cultivate emotional stability, daily practice is essential. One powerful technique is conscious breathing. When faced with an emotionally charged situation, take a deep breath before responding. This simple act creates a moment of mindfulness, allowing you to regain control rather than react impulsively. Another technique is mental distancing. When you feel anger, sadness, or frustration rising, mentally step back and observe it as if you were watching a scene in a movie. Instead of thinking, "I am angry," shift your perspective to "anger is arising within me." This subtle change in perception creates space between you and your emotions, reducing their intensity. Letting go of unnecessary suffering is another crucial practice. Many people hold on to resentment and past wounds, reliving painful experiences in their minds. But suffering is like carrying a heavy rock. You can choose to drop it at any moment. Ask yourself, does holding on to this pain serve me? More often than not, the answer is no. One way to let go is through forgiveness, not for the sake of others, but for your own peace. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful actions. It means releasing the burden of resentment so that it no longer controls you. A critical aspect of emotional mastery is learning to embrace discomfort. Modern society often teaches that we should seek comfort and avoid anything unpleasant. But true growth happens when we learn to sit with discomfort without being overwhelmed by it. This is why meditation is such a powerful tool. When meditating, you might feel restless, bored, or frustrated. Instead of reacting to these feelings, you observe them. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to remain stable in real-life situations. Another essential practice is recognizing the illusion of permanence. Everything you feel in this moment, whether joy or sadness, will eventually pass. Nothing is fixed. Understanding this brings a sense of relief. If you are experiencing pain, know that it will not last forever. If you are experiencing happiness, appreciate it fully but do not cling to it, because change is inevitable. This perspective helps cultivate a deep sense of acceptance and resilience. There is also great power in choosing your battles wisely. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every argument is worth engaging in. When someone provokes you, consider whether responding will bring peace or simply fuel unnecessary conflict. There is strength in restraint. Silence, in many situations, is more powerful than words. However, this does not mean allowing others to mistreat you. Rather, it means responding with wisdom instead of impulsivity. Ultimately, emotional stability is about shifting from reactivity to responsiveness. A reactive person is controlled by their emotions, like a leaf blown in the wind. A responsive person maintains awareness and chooses their actions consciously. They do not suppress emotions, but they do not let emotions dictate their behavior. They understand that their peace is more valuable than proving a point or winning an argument. This practice is not easy. It requires patience, self-awareness, and consistent effort. But over time, the benefits are profound. Imagine living a life where external circumstances no longer have the power to disturb your peace. Where criticism does not shake your confidence, and praise does not inflate your ego. Where you can navigate challenges with a steady mind, unburdened by unnecessary suffering. This is the power of mastering your reactions. It is not about controlling the world, it is about mastering yourself. And in doing so, you discover deep and lasting freedom. Number 3, the power of resilience, bouncing back from adversity. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship but about developing the ability to rise after every fall. Life does not spare anyone from suffering, loss, or disappointment. No matter how much one tries to control circumstances, unpredictability remains an inherent part of existence. Some people, when faced with adversity, crumble under its weight, while others emerge stronger. The difference is not in the challenges they encounter but in their ability to adapt, recover, and rebuild. Resilience is the ability to endure suffering without being defeated by it. It is the mindset that allows people to transform obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into stepping stones. At its core, resilience is built on three foundational pillars: acceptance, focusing on what is in your control, and cultivating a problem-solving mindset. The first step to resilience is accepting that suffering is an inevitable part of life. Many people spend years resisting reality, wishing things had turned out differently, or blaming others for their misfortunes. But the truth is, hardship does not discriminate. Even the most powerful, the wealthiest, and the most enlightened individuals have experienced failure, loss, and pain. The Buddha himself, before attaining enlightenment, underwent immense suffering, leaving his home, enduring extreme ascetic practices, and confronting the impermanence of life. Yet, rather than resisting suffering, he embraced it as a teacher. Acceptance does not mean passive surrender. It means acknowledging reality as it is rather than as we wish it to be. The second pillar of resilience is learning to focus on what is within your control. Many people waste their energy trying to change things that are entirely beyond their influence. They dwell on the past, obsess over other people's opinions, or wish circumstances were different. But the truth is, control is an illusion. The only thing you can truly control is your own mindset and actions. When faced with adversity, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, direct your energy toward taking constructive action. This simple shift in perspective can be life-changing. It turns victims into survivors and survivors into thrivers. The third key to resilience is developing a problem-solving mindset. When difficulties arise, people with a weak mindset tend to ask, "Why me?" They see themselves as helpless, believing that life is unfair and that suffering is a personal attack. This mentality traps them in despair and prevents them from moving forward. Strong-minded individuals, on the other hand, ask, "What can I do about this?" They do not waste time blaming others or dwelling on misfortune. Instead, they take proactive steps to improve their situation. Resilience is not about pretending that suffering does not exist. It is about refusing to be paralyzed by it. A powerful real-life example of resilience is found in the story of a Buddhist monk who survived a devastating tsunami that struck Sri Lanka in 2004. He lost his monastery, his possessions, and many members of his community. Yet, instead of falling into despair, he chose to serve others. He helped rebuild the village, provided food and shelter to those in need, and taught meditation to help survivors process their trauma. His suffering became a bridge to compassion, and his loss became a catalyst for service. This is the essence of resilience, transforming pain into purpose. When people think about resilience, they often imagine a kind of invincibility, never feeling pain, never breaking down, never showing vulnerability. But true resilience is not about avoiding emotions, it is about navigating them skillfully. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The difference lies in how one interprets hardship. A resilient person does not deny their emotions. They allow themselves to grieve, to feel sadness, to process loss, but they do not let these emotions define them. They acknowledge the pain but refuse to be consumed by it. One of the greatest obstacles to resilience is the tendency to see failure as permanent. Many people experience a single failure and allow it to shape their identity. They convince themselves that they are unworthy, incapable, or destined for misfortune. This mindset keeps them trapped in cycles of self-doubt and avoidance. But in reality, failure is nothing more than feedback. It is an opportunity to learn, to refine one's approach, and to develop a greater understanding of what does and does not work. This mindset is particularly evident in Buddhist teachings on impermanence. Everything in life is subject to change: success, failure, joy, sorrow. If one clings to either extreme, suffering is inevitable. But if one recognizes that all things are temporary, it becomes easier to endure hardship, knowing that it, too, shall pass. When faced with difficulty, instead of seeing it as the end of the road, a resilient person sees it as a bend in the path. They understand that setbacks are temporary and that no situation, no matter how painful, lasts forever. Resilience also requires self-compassion. Many people are their own worst critics, harshly judging themselves for their failures and misfortunes. But self-criticism only deepens suffering. A resilient mindset involves treating oneself with the same kindness and understanding that one would offer a friend. When struggling, instead of engaging in self-blame, a resilient person acknowledges their efforts and reminds themselves that making mistakes is part of the human experience. They do not see setbacks as a reflection of their worth but as a natural part of growth. Developing resilience takes practice. It requires daily mental discipline and intentional effort. One of the most effective ways to cultivate resilience is through mindfulness meditation. Meditation trains the mind to observe thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. It allows for greater emotional regulation, making it easier to stay calm in the face of adversity. Another powerful practice is gratitude. Even in difficult times, there is always something to be grateful for. Focusing on what remains rather than what is lost helps shift perspective and provides strength to keep moving forward. The most important lesson in resilience is understanding that adversity is not the enemy. Hardship is not a punishment, it is an invitation to grow. Every challenge carries within it an opportunity for transformation. Just as fire refines gold, difficulties shape and strengthen the mind. Those who avoid discomfort at all costs remain fragile, easily broken by the slightest hardship. But those who embrace adversity, who see challenges as opportunities for wisdom, develop an inner strength that cannot be shaken. Ultimately, resilience is about reclaiming power over one's own mind. It is about refusing to be a victim of circumstances and instead becoming an active participant in shaping one's life. No one can escape suffering entirely, but everyone has the power to decide how they will respond to it. The difference between those who are defeated by adversity and those who rise above it is not intelligence, talent, or luck, it is mindset. With the right mindset, any hardship can be transformed into a stepping stone toward greater wisdom, strength, and peace. Number 4. Self-love and self-compassion, the foundation of inner strength. Self-love and self-compassion are often misunderstood. Many people mistake self-love for arrogance, selfishness, or self-indulgence. But in reality, self-love is not about thinking you are better than others or ignoring responsibilities. It is about respecting your own peace, treating yourself with kindness, and protecting your inner well-being. True self-love means recognizing that your own mental and emotional state matters. It is the foundation of resilience, stability, and inner strength. If you truly love yourself, you will not allow external negativity to poison your mind. Most people live their lives constantly seeking validation from others. They measure their worth based on how much approval they receive, how much admiration they attract, or how well they fit into society's expectations. But the problem with this approach is that it places your sense of self-worth in the hands of people who are often inconsistent, judgmental, or indifferent. If your peace depends on the opinions of others, then you will always be vulnerable, happy when praised, miserable when criticized. A person who truly loves themselves, however, does not rely on external approval. They cultivate a deep sense of self-worth that is independent of outside forces. One of the biggest obstacles to self-love is self-criticism. Many people have an inner voice that constantly judges, belittles, and finds fault in everything they do. They replay past mistakes, focus on their weaknesses, and convince themselves that they are not good enough. But this inner voice is not an accurate reflection of reality. It is simply the result of conditioning, past experiences, and societal pressure. Imagine if you spoke to a friend the way you speak to yourself. Would you tell them they are a failure? That they are not deserving of kindness? If not, then why treat yourself that way? Self-compassion means speaking to yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a loved one. It is about recognizing that you, like all human beings, are imperfect but still worthy of love. A simple but powerful daily practice to cultivate self-love is affirming your commitment to peace every morning. When you wake up, take a moment to say, "No matter what happens today, I will not carry negativity. I choose peace." This small ritual serves as a reminder that you are in control of your mental state. No matter what external events unfold, you have the power to decide whether or not you allow them to disturb your inner tranquility. Buddha once compared the mind to a trash bin. If you collect negativity every day, resentment, anger, self-doubt, your mind begins to stink. It becomes filled with unnecessary suffering, making it difficult to experience peace and clarity. But if you make it a habit to empty the bin daily, to release negative thoughts, to let go of grudges, to forgive yourself and others, your mind remains fresh, light, and at peace. Letting go does not mean ignoring reality or pretending that difficulties do not exist. It means refusing to let unnecessary burdens weigh you down. One of the most transformative aspects of self-love is setting boundaries. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others or being perceived as unkind. But constantly putting other people's needs above your own at the expense of your well-being is not compassion, it is self-neglect. A person who loves themselves understands that they cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are exhausted, overburdened, or emotionally drained, you cannot truly be present for others in a meaningful way. Learning to set healthy boundaries, whether in relationships, work, or social obligations, is an essential part of self-respect. Forgiveness is another key element of self-compassion. Many people hold on to guilt and shame over past mistakes, punishing themselves for things they cannot change. But holding on to past suffering only creates more suffering. Imagine carrying a heavy rock wherever you go. The longer you hold onto it, the more it weighs you down. But at any moment, you have the power to release it. Forgiveness does not mean ignoring responsibility, it means accepting that you are human, that mistakes are part of growth, and that you deserve to move forward without the burden of self-punishment. A common misconception about self-love is that it leads to complacency or laziness. Some people fear that if they accept themselves as they are, they will lose motivation to improve. But the truth is, self-love is not about ignoring flaws, it is about improving from a place of compassion rather than self-hatred. When you truly love yourself, you strive to grow not because you feel inadequate, but because you recognize your potential. Self-love is the foundation of all meaningful self-improvement. It provides the emotional security needed to take risks, to step outside of comfort zones, and to pursue goals without fear of failure. To strengthen self-love, it is important to become aware of your internal dialogue. Throughout the day, pay attention to how you speak to yourself. When you catch yourself engaging in self-criticism, pause and reframe the thought. Instead of saying, "I'm such a failure," say, "I made a mistake, but I am learning." Instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," remind yourself, "I am growing, and I am enough as I am." These small shifts in self-talk have a profound impact over time. Gratitude is another practice that enhances self-love. Many people focus so much on what they lack that they fail to appreciate what they already have. Take a moment each day to acknowledge something you love about yourself, whether it is a quality, an effort, or a simple act of kindness you showed to someone. Gratitude shifts your mindset from one of deficiency to one of abundance. At its deepest level, self-love is about understanding that you are inherently worthy, not because of your achievements, status, or appearance, but simply because you exist. Your worth does not need to be proven. It does not need to be earned. It is already there. Society often conditions people to believe that they must reach a certain level of success, perfection, or external validation to be worthy of love. But this is an illusion. If you attach your worth to external factors, you will always be chasing something, never feeling truly fulfilled. Real peace comes when you recognize that you are already enough. In moments of doubt, remind yourself that you deserve peace. You deserve kindness. You deserve love, not just from others, but from yourself. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. When you respect yourself, when you honor your own well-being, you create a life that reflects that love. Self-love is not selfish, it is necessary. It is the foundation upon which all other aspects of inner strength are built. It allows you to remain stable in the face of adversity, resilient in times of hardship, and compassionate toward yourself and others. It is not something that happens overnight, but with practice, it becomes second nature. And when you truly love yourself, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering and embrace a life of genuine peace. Number 5. Debunking the myth of strength. True strength is inner calm. Strength is often misunderstood. Many people believe that to be strong, they must be dominant, aggressive, or confrontational. Society often glorifies those who shout the loudest, fight back the hardest, or assert themselves through force. But in truth, this is not strength, it is a lack of control. True strength is not about overpowering others but about mastering oneself. A person who is constantly angry, reactive, or easily provoked is not displaying strength, they are revealing their inner instability. The strongest person in any room is not the one who dominates through fear or force but the one who remains calm, unshaken, and in control of their emotions. The common belief that anger equals power is deeply flawed. Anger is not a demonstration of control, it is a loss of control. When someone reacts in anger, they are allowing their emotions to dictate their actions, rather than making conscious choices. Anyone can yell, insult, or lash out when provoked. It takes no skill, wisdom, or discipline to react impulsively. But to remain composed, to choose peace over reaction, to respond with wisdom rather than impulse, that requires real strength. When Buddha was confronted with hostility, he did not retaliate. When he was insulted, he did not feel the need to defend his ego. Even when Devadatta, his own cousin, plotted against him and attempted to kill him multiple times, Buddha remained unmoved. He did not let hatred take root in his heart. Instead of seeking revenge, he responded with wisdom and compassion. His unshakable calmness was the ultimate display of power. Calmness under pressure is one of the greatest indicators of true strength. Imagine two people in the middle of a storm. One is panicking, yelling, and blaming others. The other is silent, observing, and thinking of a solution. Who is the stronger one? Strength is not about external force, it is about internal mastery. The ability to remain composed in difficult situations, to stay grounded even when faced with chaos, is what separates a truly strong person from a weak one. This is why great leaders, wise teachers, and enlightened beings have always emphasized the importance of inner calm. When emotions control you, you are weak. When you control your emotions, you are strong. Choosing peace over reaction is another sign of real strength. In everyday life, people often feel the need to react immediately to provocation. If someone insults them, they respond with an even harsher insult. If someone challenges them, they feel the urge to prove themselves. But this cycle of reaction and retaliation only leads to more suffering. True power lies in knowing that you do not have to engage in every conflict, that not every insult deserves a response, and that walking away from negativity is not weakness but wisdom. A truly strong person does not need validation from others. They do not need to prove their worth through arguments, aggression, or dominance. They are secure enough in themselves to let go of ego-driven battles. One of the greatest misconceptions about strength is the belief that kindness is weakness. Many people think that in order to be respected, they must be tough, intimidating, or unapproachable. But in reality, kindness requires far more strength than cruelty. It is easy to be harsh, to put up walls, to push others away. But to remain kind in a world that often rewards selfishness, that is strength. It takes incredible inner power to remain compassionate even when others are unkind, to choose understanding over judgment, and to offer forgiveness instead of holding on to resentment. Kindness is not a sign of weakness, it is a reflection of deep inner confidence. The story of Buddha and Devadatta is a perfect example of this. Devadatta, consumed by jealousy, made multiple attempts to harm Buddha. He tried to discredit him, plotted against him, and even attempted to assassinate him. Yet, Buddha never responded with hatred. He did not seek revenge, nor did he allow Devadatta's actions to disturb his peace. Instead, he continued to teach, to guide, and to show compassion. His strength was in his ability to remain unaffected, to see past Devadatta's malice and recognize the suffering that fueled it. This level of calmness, this ability to remain unmoved by negativity, is the highest form of power. Many people think that letting go of anger means allowing others to walk over them. But letting go of anger does not mean tolerating injustice, it means choosing the most effective response. Anger clouds judgment. It makes people act irrationally and often causes more harm than good. A strong person does not suppress their emotions, but they do not allow their emotions to control them either. When faced with a challenge, they step back, observe, and respond from a place of wisdom rather than impulse. A simple way to practice this is through mindfulness. The next time you feel anger rising within you, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this worth disturbing my peace? More often than not, the answer is no. By training yourself to pause before reacting, you begin to shift from being controlled by your emotions to being in control of them. Another powerful practice is learning to detach from the need to be right. Many arguments and conflicts arise because people feel the need to defend their ego. But when you truly understand yourself, you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You become free. Another profound lesson in true strength is the ability to forgive. Holding on to grudges takes far more energy than letting them go. Many people believe that holding on to resentment gives them power, but in reality, it only chains them to the past. Forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior, it is about freeing yourself from the burden of anger. When you forgive, you do not do it for the other person, you do it for yourself. You choose peace over pain. One of the reasons why people struggle with this concept is because they confuse power with control. They think that if they can control others, they are powerful. But real power is not about controlling external circumstances, it is about mastering oneself. No one has complete control over what happens in life. You cannot control how others treat you, what they say about you, or the challenges that come your way. But you can control how you respond. You can control your mindset, your emotions, and your actions. This is where true strength lies. The path to inner calm is not about suppressing emotions but about transforming them. Instead of reacting with anger, respond with understanding. Instead of engaging in conflict, choose silence. Instead of proving your strength through aggression, prove it through unwavering composure. When you realize that you do not need to react to everything, you gain immense freedom. When you learn to protect your peace above all else, you become unshakable. Anger is easy. Retaliation is easy. But mastering inner peace? That is strength. The ability to remain calm in the face of adversity, to choose wisdom over reaction, to stay kind even when the world is cruel, this is the mark of true power. It is not about being passive, it is about being in control. It is not about avoiding confrontation, it is about choosing battles wisely. And most importantly, it is not about proving yourself to others, it is about knowing yourself so deeply that you no longer need validation from anyone. If you look at the wisest and most enlightened beings in history, you will notice one common trait: they were calm. They did not waste energy on unnecessary conflict. They did not let external negativity disturb their inner peace. They understood that strength is not about force but about control over the mind. This is the kind of strength that endures. The kind that cannot be broken. The kind that leads to true freedom. Now that you have uncovered the foundations of an unshakable mind, there is one final truth to embrace. Strength is not something you seek outside of yourself, it is something you cultivate from within. You cannot control the storms that life throws your way, but you can control how you respond to them. You cannot silence every critic, but you can refuse to let their words shape your identity. You cannot avoid suffering, but you can transform it into wisdom. This is the power of a strong mindset, the ability to remain centered, composed, and untouchable no matter what happens. Strength is not in the absence of struggle but in how you navigate through it. Many people spend their lives resisting change, fearing uncertainty, and running from discomfort. But the truth is, change is inevitable, uncertainty is unavoidable, and discomfort is a necessary part of growth. The difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who rise above it is not their circumstances, but their mindset. A weak mind resists reality, clings to control, and reacts impulsively. A strong mind embraces uncertainty, adapts to challenges, and responds with wisdom. You now have the tools to build this kind of mind, but tools alone are not enough. Understanding is just the beginning. Transformation happens in the practice. Every day, you have a choice. Every day, you decide whether to react or to remain calm, whether to hold on to suffering or to release it, whether to let external circumstances dictate your peace or to stand firm in your own power. The world is full of people who act on impulse, who crumble in the face of hardship, who allow fleeting emotions to dictate their lives. But what the world truly needs are those who stand firm, who think clearly, who radiate a strength that comes from deep within. If you want to develop an unshakable mind, embrace life's ups and downs. Stop resisting change and start learning to flow with it. The more you accept that nothing is permanent, the easier it becomes to remain at peace through life's inevitable fluctuations. Master your reactions. Do not give power to negativity. Let go of what does not serve you. Choose your responses consciously, rather than allowing emotions to control you. Cultivate resilience. Rise every time you fall, knowing that failure is not a reflection of your worth but an opportunity for growth. Practice self-love. Protect your peace, set boundaries, and honor your own well-being instead of seeking validation from others. Seek true strength. Let go of anger, choose wisdom, and respond to life's challenges with inner calm. If you commit to these principles, you will become like the rock unshaken by the storm, calm, wise, and at peace. You will no longer be at the mercy of fleeting emotions or external chaos. Instead, you will step into your full power, living a life of clarity, purpose, and deep inner strength. But remember, a strong mindset is not built overnight. It is not a single decision, but a daily practice. Every day, make the choice to protect your peace. Every day, train your mind to remain calm. Every day, remind yourself that your strength does not depend on the opinions of others or the circumstances around you. It is already within you. If this message resonated with you, share it with others. Help spread the wisdom of a strong mind. The more people who learn to cultivate inner peace, the stronger the world becomes. And always remember, true power is not in how loud you are, but in how calm you remain. May you find lasting happiness, resilience, and peace.